meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record have you heard anything from Mona? Okay. Okay, moving on. Principals report. Who would like to start this evening?
I'll go first. We are in the process of registering all of our students for classes for next year, and we will be registering them online for the first time ever, so cross your fingers for us. Congratulations to quite a few of our students this week. Joe Marolt is going to the state alpine ski meet this week. Reed Melcher is going for Nordic skiing as well. We're having a pet fest for the two of them tomorrow to send them off. Our one act was runner-up at the Section 7A contest this past weekend. Great finish. We would have liked to see them go to state, but it was still a very good finish for a very good play. Caitlin Koskela made the girls all academic hockey. Katie Boudreau received an award. She was nominated by the Mesabi Range Technical College, where she's a PSEO student this year. She was selected for the All Minnesota Academic Team. 2 students are selected from each college. She gets to go to a banquet in White Bear Lake, and a $500 scholarship came with that. I gave you a copy of an essay written by John Martinson, who's a senior with us this year. Out of 667 essays, John took 5th place. He will be recognized at an award ceremony in Duluth at the end of March. His family has been invited. I will be there. Mrs. Walls can't go. That's his English teacher who he did this for. But our school counselor and I will be there that day. So that's very exciting for him too. Midterm is coming up next week already, February 19th. And I believe that's all I have.
Just to add one thing about that one-act play, even though they finished second, they have been invited to perform the show at the Guthrie Theater on Monday, February 17th at 10:30 a.m. That's an honor.
Well, at the Franklin Elementary, I can just tell you a little bit about our February I Love to Read activities. We have an Olympic theme. We've got each grade level competing in a different sport, and they're competing either by minutes of reading time at home or books read. There's Dress Up Fridays. I believe it's red, white, and blue this Friday. The Arrowhead Library System is sponsoring an assembly for us. They are bringing in a juggler on February 19th, so we figured that's kind of the middle of the month reward for their reading. And at the end of the month, we have a sliding party scheduled.
Over in Gilbert, we kicked off I Love to Read Month. We had a send-off for Mr. Isaacson. That was very well attended. Pretty cool. We got some good press out of that. And then the next day we had author Doug Wood. He wrote the book Old Turtle, among others. The Gilbert Library brought him in for the 5 through 8 and in the auditorium, and he told some stories and sang some songs, and the kids are very impressed with him. We're finishing up the OLPAs this week. That's the online practice test for math, and we'll be able to tell where we're at coming into testing season starting in March, which isn't all that far away. So we can make some adjustments and hopefully do pretty well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Visitor input. Anyone who's not on the agenda who wishes to address the board, any time to step up, state your name, say what you have to say. Anyone? Okay. Thank you. Agenda changes. Debbie?
I have none.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. Support. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. We now need a request to remove any topics from the consent agenda. Anyone? Okay. Need a motion to to approve the consent agenda?
Support.
We have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Any questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9.0, new business. Achievement recognition, we already went through
Well,
those.
we do have one
But
on here,
there's
though.
also- Yes, where is it?
It's for Deanna Cruzy
Oh, there
to
we go.
recognize her as the Coach of the Year for 2014 for Minnesota State Track and Field, Girls Section 7A.
Good on her. She's worked hard for it. But I'm
She
surprised
has.
that it's already in 2014,
So
beginning of the season.
this from last year?
Well, I think they recognized the previous years, but the email said it was Coach of the Year for 2014, so.
Okay, well, congratulations to Deanna. Okay. 9.2, volunteers and education update. We have two faces that are kind of familiar. Ann, you want to start?
Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing Maxine Perko and me to talk to you a little bit tonight about our Volunteers in Education program. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ann Voss, and I'm excited to be the coordinator for the Evelyn Gilbert Schools Volunteers in Education program this year. It's been an exciting and interesting challenge so far. I know I can say that as a teacher for 34 years here, and then following that up with a couple of years as a Title I teacher for 2 years, I know the challenges that teachers face in trying to help every student succeed in school. And there just aren't enough of those teachers in that classroom to go around, and there certainly is never enough time to try to help every single child succeed as we wish them to. And so when I heard about this program and that we had it in our schools, I was very excited about it because I could see the value of this kind of program helping out our students, in addition to the other ways that and other services that our school provides to help students succeed. So here I am as the coordinator, and I'm really enjoying it. And I wanted to remind you that in the spring, Art Dale, former executive director, spoke to you about the goals and the purpose of the Volunteer in Education program, or VINE as we like to call it. And he said it was to bring communities and schools together. And I truly believe that we know that the students that we are trying to prepare for the future and want to see succeed in school are going to be the contributing, productive citizens and leaders in this community. And so it's certainly very fitting that our community gets involved in our schools to help those students succeed. And so what I did was put together a little fact sheet, but before I do that, I want to take a moment to introduce the new executive director who's with us this evening. Her name is Dominique Allen, and she started this summer, and we're really happy you could be with us this evening, so wanted you to meet her. I put together a little fact sheet about what VINE has been doing so far in our Evelyn Gilbert school system. We started, the tutor program started later in October, and Maxine's program that she will talk about, the SMART program, started in September because of the time requirements and needs that she had. But we started after training and recruiting our volunteers, and we currently have 20 classrooms that are participating in our program. 14 of those classrooms are at the Franklin, 4 classrooms participate at the Nell Sheen, and 2 classrooms presently at the junior high. We picked up 3 new classrooms this semester, and 2 others, because they felt they didn't have as great a need this semester, are no longer receiving our assistance. So at this point, we've really been involved in 23 classrooms so far this year. Presently, we have 24 volunteer tutors helping out in our classrooms and in our after-school program. With the student tutors and adult tutors that we had during first semester, some of whom are no longer available because of their schedule changes. We had one move, another had health issues, and so on. We've had 32 volunteers helping out in our schools since the beginning of this program's start in October. We are averaging about, in a full month, 100 volunteer hours over the course of those classroom and after-school visits. And I know that number is going to increase second semester because we have additional classrooms participating and our after-school program. We just started a junior high 2-day-a-week after-school homework help program from 2:50 until 3:45, and we have 3 tutors available to help with that. We're slowly getting started, and we had 4 students there on Thursday to receive some help, but I'm hoping that's going to increase as parents find out that the program is available. Teachers are talking with parents. I've been told that. They're encouraging parents to send their students. Administration and counselors have been helping out with that. So hopefully those numbers will go up as well. We have a wide range of tutors in terms of age, community members, parents, college-age students. We have juniors and seniors from the National Honor Society who have been very strong participants. And so what's neat is that we cover a wide range of volunteers that are helping us out. How are we utilizing those tutors? Well, the staff has had a lot of different ways that they've utilized them. Some one-on-one help is provided to many students who could use a little extra practice reading, practicing their reading or working on their math. We have our tutors working in groups. Maybe it's working on writing activities together or reading assignment questions that they work on. Our tutors sometimes are carrying presents in the room, milling about the room and working with the whole class as individual students maybe need a little help with assignments and so on. Special projects. We had one teacher who already is using one of our tutors regularly who called and said, could I get some extra students maybe available to help out because we've got this service project going on and we really could use a few extra hands. So I was able to get a hold of a student that was available during that time, and so they help with special projects. They work at learning stations in the Smart Classroom and in reading classes at the elementary. So they're being utilized in many, many different ways. The recruitment is always the challenge, and that's the hardest part, but I've been very fortunate to have a wide variety of means that have helped. Our articles in the school district newsletter have brought in calls from people that were interested. I've had recommendations from staff and other people, friends. Luckily, with my previous connections to the district, I've been able to ask for help from people that I know, former teachers. So we're utilizing a variety of ways, but there's always room for more, and that's one of my biggest challenges, is trying to get more individuals who are willing to help out. So that never ends. Being that it's our first year, I see lots of things that I would do differently next year, ways that it could be improved, things that I've learned from the experience of going through it. I've gotten some great input from staff and from the students who've helped out too. By and large, the feedback has been very positive. But again, there's always room for improvement, and I've gotten some good suggestions on ways that we can make this even stronger or better. I just see so many benefits of the program, and not because I'm helping as the coordinator, but because I really feel that our students are getting to meet and work with other individuals, and I think they look forward to working with those students. The volunteers are making a real difference in the lives of students by building their confidence and building some friendships. I think our schools benefit with the community coming in, and also the community gets a chance to see what wonderful things we have going on in our school too. And they're amazed at how much learning is going on. And they're excited to be a part of it, and they tell other people about it, and there becomes a real ownership, I think, in our schools when our community is invited in. So I'm not going to take too much longer because I know Maxine has some things to tell you about the SMART program. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I just wanted to say that this has been a real privilege for me, and I've enjoyed the challenge, and I hope we have an equally good second half of the year. Any questions at all from anyone?
You haven't changed, Dan.
Some habits die hard.
I know. Well, yeah, well, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I want to thank you. When I walk in here, I graduated from the Evelyn schools, now Evelyn Gilbert, and I always feel like this is home. So it's very comfortable to me to be here, and thank you very much. I work, about 8 years ago, I got involved with the Minnesota Learning Center down in the cities, A Chance to Grow. And actually, Cammie Newman was the one that was doing her master's program, and she came back with this fabulous program. And we watched her for a while, and then pretty soon, 2 of us got trained. And then when I got close to retirement, they were coming in because we had mentoring, because it is quite the program. And I talked to them about hiring me when I retire because I was getting close. So they did. So I got certified to do training, and then when the SMART program, or when the Vine approached me, actually Mrs. Bowl did, Art Dale had been talking about the movement piece, and he knew there was a missing piece in the development of children. And he started, in fact, we were at the Vermilion Club, and he started going like this at the table. And I thought, I have the missing piece. Because SMART is stimulating maturity through accelerated readiness training. We are getting students that we are trying to teach that are not ready. And it starts before a child is born. And that movement piece that happens from 0 to 12 months is so important in the development of a child that if there's any missing pieces in crawling or spinning or movement, and like Mrs. Carey told me today, she said, my mother said kids are missing SMART. And what is SMART? SMART is all the stuff children should have been doing, and this came from you, that we did when we were children. We spun around, we moved, we did those developmental pieces that we were created to do, and we came ready. Most of our kids came ready, unless there was some other glitch. Now we have more and more kids that are developmentally delayed. So, where's the pressure? It's put on the school. The school's pressure is fix it. We don't honestly go back to the families. I don't know how you would do it. So we get these kids, what are we going to do with them? And I really personally feel that this is one of the pieces put with a classroom and volunteers and all the other pieces that you do. I think this is a key piece that if we trained our teachers, that we would see a difference. Now, I gave you a packet here, and then I'm going to show you what a SMART, kind of go through what a SMART lesson is. There's a lot of components to this. The training is 3 days, and it's intense, and I've gone through it about 5 times. So anyway, I gave you the information about what each of these letters mean and what they mean, and everything in the SMART program is brain researched. They have developed this program. It started out with Brain Gym, but Brain Gym was good, but it didn't have the research. The SMART program has the developmental brain research to back it. And then also, I gave you the benefits of the activities. Now, what a classroom, and we have Mrs. Newman, Cammie Newman, is piloting the 80 hours because the program to be successful, and A Chance to Grow got a grant this summer to do 10 schools in southern Minnesota and pilot the preschool program, which they have written books. The two women that have put these books together, the core, which I'll show you the core, and the more, and they're piloting this down in southern Minnesota because they know that in early education, if we get that developmental piece, we're going to get our children on track. Because if we're trying to teach them and they can't sit still, and they can't, their bodies aren't ready, and all I can explain it to you, because there's so much science in this, if you think of your spinal cord, needs to be like, all of you are sitting in a chair and you can control it. You're not even thinking about it. That development comes through the spinal cord. All these developmental things that come from 0 to 12, like spinning and being able to reach. I'm watching my grandson, and I track them. I gave him a book. He should be doing this at this age and this at this age. They're tracking how a normal child should develop. And all these things, like this creeping, affect how you're going to learn. So if by law we've said, okay, kids have to be in these car seats and parents aren't moving them like they should, and part of it is in our society too. We've got computers, they're on computers way too early, they're sitting too much, they're not, some kids are walking before they're crawling, they're missing basic pieces of their development. We get them in schools and we're going, why does the child read the words but can't comprehend? Our program says these movement pieces are missing. And that's why some of the kids are not doing what they can read, but they can't comprehend. They can't sit still. So it's just fabulous. But anyway, I'll just show you, because Cammie is doing the 80 hours, and I did it my last year. I did the 80 hours, and it's based on these core things. And I'll show you a basic lesson. I do this with kindergarten. Who I work with, and I had to add it up one day for a grant. I work with approximately 288 kids a week. I'm there all day Thursdays and half of Wednesdays. So I start out, I put it in the lounge and teachers could sign up. I said, these are the hours that I have. So I have an early childhood special ed class. I have all of the kindergartens, all of the first grades. Second didn't sign up. I don't know what happened there. Then they wanted it and the times were filled. I do all of third and 1/4 and a special ed class. So I flip-flop. And Mrs. Bull, I have to thank her graciously, gave us a room, which is fabulous. There's, I can set out the tracks and everything and we can move. But actually the program is based on sensory pathways to the brain. Because if your spinal cord is on automatic and you've developed, by the time the cortex that can only do one thing is ready to be in play with language, and then the crossing over the left-right brain, all these activities. If the spinal cord is not on automatic and all those things aren't developed, the cortex is doing that. So if the child's development isn't there and you're already trying to get them to comprehend and to learn and to focus on you and to follow the teacher and be able to put their head down like this from the desk to the board, to follow over here, and to follow that teacher, it's not going to happen. So these are the core activities. So this is one of the things, and when we're learning their words, and I'll show you what I did with the first grade curriculum, and I'm going to put some tracks on the floor and show you early childhood, kindergarten, and first grade to show you the developmental pieces. But anyway, these are the core things that you should do every day. They take about 20 minutes, and they don't have to be done at once. This is for the eyes, because a lot of the reasons why kids are not learning and they're not focusing, it's their eyes. And I'm sure, Mrs. Spang, you'll attest to that. And that's the one piece that teachers kind of miss because we're not trained. So we use the light. And so the light, the pupils we are dilating and whatever, and we do the words, so the light is on for a second, off, and they have to focus and concentrate on that light. Doesn't hurt their eyes, it doesn't do anything, and so I flash the words at them. So I do this for kindergarten. Every time I have a kindergarten class, we do a reading lesson. So that's one of the things. This is the creeping, which I'll show you the tracks and the different developmental stages. If you look on those papers, it's that right, left movement that in the development, if a child doesn't creep a lot, that can delay how they learn. Okay. This is just an easy one too, to get the eyes to converge. Just takes a couple seconds. Rolling. The pencil roll. This one we just started to really do. I have wagon wheels all over. And this, in your packet that I gave you, the kindergarten teachers and the first grade teachers wrote just a little comment about how they have seen this program, affect their kids. Because Mrs. Bull gave us that room, the first grade teachers are going in there and the tracks are set up. So when I'm not there, they're using that room. And so these kids are getting more than just the time that I'm there. This one is following directions, making kids really zero in on, okay, they have to cover one eye and they have to follow my directions. Go up the red line, go down, go around, go left, go right. This should be done every day also. Then this is another eye tracking thing that's important in development. We do this outside. In the fall, I took the kids outside and showed them how they could use. We have a fabulous playground. It's a smart playground. And so I showed the kids how they could run a track through there and help their own learning by using their, taking some responsibility. Then the alligator crawl. This is a great thing for handwriting and fine gross motor skills. Balance beam is being able to control your spot, you concentrate, and then the spinning, which we love to do, and we do it to music. So on these cold days when, and Mrs. Bull and I've tried to connect where I could come in on off days when you're inside, these kids need to move. They need to move. So on those days, we have such fabulous technology. Having those Mimios in the room, we just made a list of things that we gave to the teachers that they could use for small little breaks that are on following directions, concentrating, focusing on the teacher. And then the last couple of weeks, I've really been working on them, how important it is to follow your teacher. And then we do these movement things that they are so much fun, but they're causing the children to pay attention and focus and follow me. And when they don't, we have to start all over, because it's like you look at me, you follow me, you do these activities, and they're all brain-researched developmental things that they don't even realize are helping them to focus and learn. So let me just, because I could go on and on and on. I want to show you what I did with the first grade curriculum, and they seem to be really happy with it. So when you're looking at a school and getting your teachers trained, how do they do this and how do we do it to the easiest way? How can you make your curriculum that you just started, they just have a brand new reading curriculum, how can you make it smart and how can you make it easy for teachers? So I sat down with the first grade teachers and we put together the words with the lights, and I do a lot of that, and then we put the tracks together, and I'll show you the learning tracks. We took and they've seen a big increase in how their kids are learning sight words and reading and fluency, and I'll show you on the tracks too. But we take their words, and these are activities. There's a book. When you are trained, you get a book of tons of activities that you can pick and choose from to use for everything, every sensory thing that they talk about. Listening, how you would teach your vocabulary. So you just take your curriculum and you make it smart. So we have these sheets, and those teachers were just awesome. Now, if you were, let's see, where's my crayon here? Okay. So if you're trying to teach a child to do left to right, and you're trying to get them to focus, and you want to also have them learn a sight word, what you would do is, okay, first of all, this is called rainbow tracing. You would take the word, and this is a smart activity, and you would take this and you would trace it starting with light colors to dark. And you can either say the letters or you can sound it out while you're doing it, and you keep doing it and you're doing it left to right. And that's what you would do with this. And rainbow tracing is a very good brain activity to help kids to learn. You also would take those words and you put them, red is the brain research color that if you looked in the room here and you looked around, the color that's really going to stand out is red. And here I am with red. But it's if you put a group together, the red is going to stand out. So because energy goes from the bottom up, we use the laser light to track the kids, and they use a bean bag, and these are on the wall, because you're doing that left-right brain crossover, and the kids have to go up, and they're either on a trampoline or they're doing around, by, many, place, walk. And as they're doing that, they're building fluency. And sometimes when we want to just do an eye training thing, we just take the bean bags and we go like this, going left to right, and then we go up and up. And then sometimes I'm using the laser light because I'm teaching them to focus, looking at the board, looking down at the desk, looking to the left, looking to the right without moving their head. So all these little couple-minute activities are doing the development piece for all children, which is necessary even for kids that don't have trouble learning. So and the teachers are really good about this. So then, about doing this, because I don't even do the papers. So if you're doing a left to right thing and you're trying to do fluency and get them ready to track with their eyes to do a word, they do this. We do these papers every week, and they start here and they catch the word, and then they have to catch the letter W-A-Y, away. And they're doing that left to right. Then they also do the word, same thing, and so what they're doing is they're also doing eye tracking. They're doing away, 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 and off the paper, and they're doing that movement. Same thing over here. They do the same. So these kids are getting this every week with their vocabulary. So then they come into the smart room, and here's what I want to show you how neat this is. And I brought these. What do you know? Well, let's see. Yeah, let's just, do you mind if I set these on the floor and I'll show you? But one of the neatest things for me is I know nothing about early childhood special ed, and I have these little kids that they're 3 years old, and I said to those teachers, I said, I don't know what to do here. So did some research. Okay, what do you do with a 2 or 3 year old to get them to have that eye tracking or whatever? So this would be this is early childhood special ed. Okay, whoops. The floor isn't. Okay, so these little kids, and they are absolutely precious. If I was younger, I might have gone into special ed, maybe not. Okay, so these little munchkins, go here and they have to go. They start here and you always start right. I'm going to start here because they have to go. Apple, banana, orange, orange, banana, apple, banana, apple. And they're tracking and they're doing that developmental piece, and they're just absolutely precious. So then then you can do color with this. You can say red, orange, yellow. They're just great. And so then, I won't pull this up. So then early childhood does counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just this last week, I noticed how much better they were. And I said to Dina, oh my gosh, these kids are precious. Because they have to speak also. And that is a big part of development with young kids, is getting them to speak and to recall back what you're asking them to do. So then we get to kindergarten, and I'm going to tell you, we work with the vocabulary, and we put, this is, I have all these tracks. Okay, this is kindergarten, and I want to show you what the Evelyn Gilbert kindergarten classes are doing. And they've been doing this for some time. Okay, you take, these are their sight words. I almost was going to have Andrea bring her daughter. So, I want to tell you, and I've always said this about the Evelyn Gilbert schools, your staff, I would hold them against, up with any school anywhere. They are fabulous to work with. They have been so supportive because they see it. Okay, they see how necessary this is and how it works if you read what they wrote. So, we've been doing this for some time. We took their sight words, put them into sentences, and these are rebus sentences where you take a picture to help them read, and you should see these little kids go. You go to the house, we like the 5 toys, you like soup, I see the grapes. You are doing fluency, you are doing the developmental piece, and it's, when they first did it, because I thought, oh gosh, this is kindergarten, you should see these kids. They are just, and they love it. So then we do the same thing with first grade, where we go a little step higher. We have sentence tracks, we have vocabulary tracks, we have word wall jumping things, and this is the one that I love the most. Because when, I believe, this is just my own philosophy, that not only math has rhythm, but reading has rhythm. So your fluency is just getting kids to do things to a rhythm, get it to go through a pattern. We do a lot with music. I almost brought music, but I thought I'd have you all doing it. I'd put you to some music. So you take, and this is where your staff is phenomenal because they work. I go and see them. I went to a grade level meeting that they had, and I know what they're working on. So I can make the stuff ready for them. So we were doing possessives. We have a possessive one, but this one is the do not, don't, is not, isn't, cannot, can't, that is that, is this. And I tell them that at my age I can do this in a rhythm. So anyway, that's my day. And it's just been fun, but my goal, if I could do anything, was get you to realize if you trained your teachers and you made your school a smart school, these teachers are seeing success doing just a part of this. And if we got trained like some of these schools are, you would pick up a piece that no other school had, because this is an important piece of trying to educate our kids, along with everything else you do. So anyway.
To see why you're tired at the end of the day.
You know, on Thursday afternoons at about 1:30, I've done this from 8:30 in the morning, and I've jumped and I'm spinning, and I'm like, I'm nuts. But I believe in it.
But it's a good nuts.
It's a good nuts.
Yes.
It's a good nuts, and I think,
Keeping your brain young.
yeah, it is. So anyway, I just wanted to show you what we're doing. I think it's been successful, even not doing the whole 80-hour thing, and I think it has a great place in our school system.
And I will just say that Vine is in talks to bring the curriculum up north. So I may be a trainer soon. We're working on it to get it up here and not just in the southeast schools.
So is 80 hours like the recommended amount of hours over the course of a year? Or what is 80 hours?
The 80 hours is doing those core activities in a year.
Okay.
In a year. And so it's based on, I think, 150 days doing 20 minutes a day. And if you add that up, I might be off a little bit, it comes to 80 hours. And when they have done this with schools, and schools K1 and 2, I think, and 3 are doing it, where they're all doing it, their test scores have changed because they're doing that developmental piece. Plus, I have to tell you, the kids love it. One day, Lori Jan came to me and she said, she let the kids choose, you know, she has these groups, because I work with whatever the teachers want. If they want me to take their whole class, I take their whole class. If they want me to take half, I take half. If they want group, whatever. She had groups that day, and she said, she sent me the first group, and I said, why am I not getting any more? She said, because everybody chose you first, and there are no groups. It was like, you know, she didn't have another group for me to have, because they all chose to, they love it. I have to tell you, they love it. And on those cold days, I just move them for a half hour, and I've got all these great things that I keep researching and finding, and we move, because I know they're going to have to sit. I do. I just think it's a great program. So if you ever want to come up, because I'm right there on the floor. So thank you. Thank you. And I'm willing, you know I'm not going to do this forever, but if you ever did want to do the training for your teachers, I would support you and help you, you know, get it going and off the ground, because you need a mentor, somebody to help you, because it's, you know, it's like learning a new curriculum, but once you do, it's really easy. You just change your tracks, and off you go. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is something we should probably look into.
Do you have
It'd
any
be good for all
questions,
of
by the
us.
way?
Yeah. What's
Do you have
that?
any questions?
So you would do this again?
No, I'll put you on. No questions?
No, I think it looks like a very worthwhile project. I think we'll have to look into it, really, seriously.
I work in some school buildings where it's used, and there are sometimes little things that you see as you walk through the school that catch your attention. For instance, when a whole class goes for a bathroom break, and you see them outside and they're all leaning on the wall and balancing on one foot, and you think, is that wall falling down? And then you realize they're getting sensory input, and it's a smart activity. You know, little things like that that can fit into a day where you'd otherwise just be standing in line bugging each other.
Right, and so many of the activities that I've found and that I've looked at, our kids are out here. I'm telling you, they are looking up here, they are over here, they're down there. To get them to focus, to look at that teacher, when you're using that light, they have to look at it. And I won't start until they're focused. So you're also helping them, you're helping the teacher, so that the teacher, and they commented about that too, that the kids are a little bit more focused because they're being trained to have to listen. And I'm stubborn, I won't let them not. I mean, it's like, I won't let them, I mean, they have to learn to follow you, or you're not going to get your best results. So.
Well, thank you again. Anyone else? Questions?
I remember when I was working here, you were so passionate about it that many years ago, and we talked about it then.
And you haven't changed. Passionate about both of you, are very passionate about what you get into.
It makes so much sense.
Yes.
And I want to thank you because, you know, when I heard that Anne was going to take that position, I thought, oh my gosh, what an opportunity to work with.
But I wanted to say too, the staff who have been so cooperative and supportive and flexible, and administration very supportive, along with the volunteers. That's what makes that program. So they are the driving force. So we really appreciate all of their cooperation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your volunteering and passion for both of you. I know both of you. It won't go away. I know that. Okay. Moving on, 9.3, discussion on moving the board meetings from Tuesday to Monday. This was originally to maybe see if we could open up a night that we're going to have a meeting or at least have our meetings the same night as all the other boards. I'll leave it at that and have everyone state what they want to do.
I'd like Mondays.
Mondays do make more sense. I mean, even the city councils are all on Mondays. And we can, I'm sorry, on Tuesdays, same day as ours. We can never go to them because we're here. So,
And we had decided, hadn't we, to move to Mondays at the 1st of July?
yes,
So what's a few more months?
Makes no matter to me.
makes no matter to me.
And it does fit in with the MIB and Virginia schedule meetings.
So we're actually going to meet at the same time as the rest of the boards then?
Same night.
Same night.
Same night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if they ever do go to the point where we have joint meetings, they're already scheduled on Mondays,
Mhm.
which would make more sense. Instead of having to keep bouncing back and forth with the date that we're gonna have a board meeting, or the day. So, I thought we'd throw it out there and see how everybody else felt.
I like it.
Do you want to make a motion?
Okay, I move that we move our meetings to Monday.
You're gonna second it?
I'll support.
Okay, see, it's easy. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So our next board meeting will be Monday, February 24th at 5.
At 5?
Well, we had moved to have
We had moved
meetings
this
at
one to
5
6
before.
because of the meeting we
It
had
was at
tonight.
6 today because of the meeting we had.
I think we had talked last week about moving into 5, and then of course, then we had to turn right around and change it again. So,
So they're Mondays at 5.
Mondays at 5. Where are you at on Mondays? Down south?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Next one. 9.4, Superintendent Search Update. Where are we at on that?
Well, the
We are-
next
we've
thing
got
that
a-
is happening is that on February 18th, there's a meeting with Glenn Chido, who is the consultant for the superintendent search. And at that time, he will be meeting with all of the board members. And then there were some community members who had indicated they wanted to be on the initial interview committees. And there were some staff, both teaching staff and AFSCME staff, that will participate in those. So on the 18th, he'll be meeting with all of you to, first of all, give you some background on candidates. And it will be giving you information by number, candidate 1, candidate 2. That night, the board will be asked to identify which candidates they want to interview, and after they're identified by number, the names will be released. He's also going to go over how that interview process will work. There's going to be 3 committees, and each committee will interview each of the candidates. So he'll schedule some dates for the interviews. My understanding is that those interviews will be held over 2 nights, that on each of the nights you might interview up to 3 different individuals. But that whole process will be explained to you on February 18th. And my understanding is that hopefully he's looking at scheduling those interviews for the last week in February, the initial interviews. And then a second interview where the board just does the interviews would be sometime early in March. So that's what I know. And I did send you information with regards to that process, so.
What was the total amount of applicants?
I haven't heard yet because the posting is open until February 15th.
Oh, okay. So we could still be receiving
Oh,
applications?
he can receive, applications right up to that
Up to
date.
the 18th?
15th. So Saturday is the last date.
Yeah. But the interview would be on the 18th, yeah.
He'll give you background information on the 18th on the candidates.
He's going to be busy between the 15th and the 18th. Because he's going to be going through all of these, looking and making a list and checking it, and to come back with his recommendations. So.
Right.
At what point in time do we receive that profile that
He's
he was
doing,
supposed
he
to
is
put
doing
together.
that same evening. That's the very
18th.
first thing he's going to be going over with you is the profile that was developed.
Okay, anyone else, any questions? Okay, moving on. 9.5, the update on the collaborative discussions with MIB and Virginia. Members of the committee.
Well, Mark, Mary, and Leon were there this evening. There was a collaborative committee meeting. I don't know if any of you want to share what was discussed at that meeting, or?
I left my stuff in the car. I think, did you bring yours in?
Yeah.
I didn't.
One of the first things, after some introduction, because there were a lot of new people there, the three of us, and there was a change on the representation from the MIB board. So there were 4 new people there. So we went through a little introduction where everybody was from. Selected a chairman to run the meetings in the future. Tim Reardon will be the chairman. And there will be a vice chair in case he is not able to make all of the meetings. And that was Betsy.
Betsy.
MIB. One of the first things, and there was some discussion on this, was on reviewing the joint powers agreement. And there was a little bit of a issue there because not all of us had the same version. And we will be getting what the current version is on that joint powers agreement. And for clarification, what this joint powers agreement is, as I understand it, you guys can correct me, it is only a joint powers agreement that will be alive for the planning of the collaboration and the building of the structure. After that, there will be a final joint powers agreement. But this initial one is just for the planning stages. Then there was a little bit of discussion on the Minnesota statutes for collaboration and co-location. And Gary Cervechnik was there and talked about that quite a bit. And there really is not anything on the books for collaboration. It's a brand new venture.
Well, for co-location anyway, yeah. It's just for consolidation or caring and sharing.
Sharing and consolidation.
And he went through some of the things, some of the laws that need to be taken into account, and some of the changes that might have to be made. And it's a whole long list. And it's not going to be an easy process. And one of the things he's going to need is some direction from the boards, from the 3 boards, on which ones to concentrate on and where to look for help. Touched on briefly about project budget and equitable cost distribution. Really wasn't much discussion there, I don't think, other than talking about some of the costs that have been involved so far and how they might be split. What else?
There were 6 committees.
Oh, yes.
Generated.
One of the, Kim Stokes from Virginia.
Yeah, Kim.
Passed out a point of discussion, something to get started on. And as far as trying to get more organized and more focused on some of the issues, trying to get some answers developed. And instead of having just the one joint committee working on some of the issues, she suggested, and it will be discussed at the next meeting, which I think is next Monday, 17th?
17th, yeah.
17th, yes. But she suggested, as a starting point, having subcommittees to look at curriculum, facility needs, new facility needs, the current buildings, and what would be happening in the districts as far as demolition costs that might be involved, and the funding for that, transportation, extracurricular activities, and then the 6th topic was joint powers, governance, and finance. And those committees could be added to, more topics. But as a suggestion, there would be a board member a superintendent or a designee, a board member from each district on each committee, and the superintendent or designee from each of the districts. So there'd be 6 people, is that correct? That's how I understood it, on each of
At a
these.
minimum.
At a minimum. Some would have more, for instance, current buildings. You want to have somebody that's involved with maintenance, as well as board members and superintendents on that committee. And then the joint powers and finance committee, there would have to be someone who knows the finance and how that all works for the districts. And then at some point, after those committees, I think, are a little more established, would look at involving public on those committees and working with the committee as it was originally set up to look into the answers and find some answers. Look into the questions and find some answers. And I think next Monday, hopefully, we'll have a start on setting up those committees and getting started on some of the issues.
Just a comment on that joint powers agreement. You all have the most recent copy of that joint powers agreement. What you need to do is read through that joint powers agreement, and if you have any questions with regards to that joint powers agreement, you need to submit your questions to me by Friday, and then Darren Stender and I will be compiling the questions from the 3 districts and giving them to John Klossmo so that he can prepare his response to those questions. So if you could get those to me by Friday, because Darren and I will start working on those next Monday. The one thing that Gary Serkvenik also said is that his role is to prepare the legislation, but it has to be a member of the legislature that agrees to introduce that legislation. So we are just at the very beginning of this process. I mean, we could prepare legislation that none of them want to introduce even, so. Okay, I think that's all I have in my notes.
With regards to those subcommittees, it's important for the board to know too that that's not just subcommittees of the committee. It would be open to all board members to serve on those committees, and in fact, we're going to need all board members to get the work done. And I personally am very concerned about information sharing and have asked that the superintendents share all the information with whole boards, not just with the 3 people on the committee. So you might be getting emails forwarded.
The easiest way to do that is to forward emails.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can't make hard copies of a lot of those things.
No,
There's just
no, but it needs to go to the whole board. And Mark even brought up that it may come to the point where we need to meet as 3 whole boards, because the committee really has no power to make a lot of decisions right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to relay the discussion that took place at that committee, to remember all of the comments that were made and who made those comments. And we did also talk about, and I think we'll make that recommendation, that that joint committee should have a secretary that is recording minutes that could be posted on district websites and distributed. So we need to remember to do that.
Yeah. Because I think right now Superintendent Stender said that he was taking minutes, but I think it needs to be somebody who's not part of the discussion, whose whole job is to focus on taking accurate minutes.
When is that meeting on the 17th? What time?
4
4
p.m.?
o'clock.
4:30.
4:30.
Well, I thought it was 4.
No, it's 4.
4. My note says 4.
4?
And I think the site is yet to be determined,
be
isn't
determined.
it? Because
4 o'clock, you're right.
with it being President's Day,
It's
the
all-
Northeast
being a
Service
holiday.
Corp is not open.
Because 4:30 was discussed, but it's 4.
Are we in discussion on this yet, or?
Yeah.
Okay, because I did attend the meeting, though, and I know we got into this very late, and one of the things that, the direction that we're moving, I mean, I don't know, I'm having some reservations here. Shouldn't there have been a study done on this and then come up with a plan? And the one board member from Mount Iron brought up to the community. We don't know what the community feels on this yet. Do we want to start investing money and everything else until we have some input from the community in what direction the board should move? I mean, it's my question.
Well, I think it would be difficult to get valid input from the community until we have a plan. To me, the plan has to come first. Then, with community involvement, putting that plan together, then the community becomes aware of what that plan is.
So we'll be investing into this.
We have to invest a lot of time and some money in the next few months, next several months, to get this plan together. And hopefully we all invest that time, because these committees are going to grow.
I'm very concerned about what our total cost for this could be. And I guess I'll lay it right out here on the table. I am concerned that Mountain Iron hired a consultant, and he's excellent as a lobbyist, but he is also the spouse of a board member in Virginia, and I have questioned if there's a conflict there. I question personally if our best interests are represented when one district hired the lobbyist, another district has a close tie to that lobbyist, and we don't have a person tied to us in either of those ways. And there's a part of me that wonders, would we be better off with a different person doing the lobbying? I don't know who that person is, and I'm not saying that anything inappropriate has happened, but I have been approached by people in the community with that concern. And so I throw that out there as something for us all to think about.
I believe Gary is also, he was born and raised in Mount Iron.
Right.
So.
And he is an outstanding lobbyist.
Yeah.
He's been very successful over the years, and I can understand why Mountain Iron went to him.
Mm-hmm. But I understand your concerns also. Because I don't think you're not the only one who's thought of that.
Well, like I said, people have talked to me about that concern, and so I'm putting it out there. And I think it needs to be addressed. I also have a lot of questions. I listened very carefully when he explained the financing of this today, but Mark, you asked him to backtrack and repeat a part of it. And I have to very honestly say, I still feel like there's holes in what I know about how this is supposed to get financed.
But I guess my reaction to that is one of the things that will become clear, has to become clear.
Absolutely.
We have to keep asking questions. And your concern about representation, a lot of that is going to fall on us to make sure we do have the representation, that the plan is balanced. I don't know if we need to have a separate lobbyist. I don't think that's the case, at least going into this we don't. But I think we have to be aware and be very cognizant, on guard or whatever, that our district is represented in what the process is going to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's going to cover all three of us.
Yeah, and that falls to us to make sure that that is happening.
But anyway, I guess I just have to be very honest and say I didn't follow what he was saying today about where this money is going to come from and how the net tax capacity fits into it. And I mean, it's words I've heard before, but it was very difficult for me to understand.
It looks like, from what I understand, mostly we're looking for the building money, the $110 million, whatever it's a building. I don't know. I've looked at world-class schools, and there's never any mention of a building. It's always what you're teaching, what your teachers are. You qualify. Are we following some other country or some other district that has done this before, and what their success rate is? Has anybody looked at
There
that?
hasn't been any co-location of districts.
Nothing. We have to compare.
There is nothing.
Nothing to compare.
So we're gonna be the first on the line.
Yes. There's going to be a lot of people watching what
And
we
we
do.
could
Yes.
sink like the
For what
Titanic on
happens,
it
not
too.
necessarily what we do.
I think there's lots of issues that need to be addressed.
There is, I look at, there was 50-some questions that were asked on that handout. There's a lot of good questions that have
Yeah,
to be
there was,
addressed.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to get to work on. They told us what we need to find out. We knew that,
Yeah.
most of that.
But we as a board need to be
Yeah.
very actively involved because
Yeah.
we need to protect our
That's right.
interests in
We
our
have-
district.
We have to look out for our
Is there-
constituents.
Is there any way that we can get this recorded so we can actually look at what's going on? Because I can't be at all of them. None of us can be at
You
every
can
one of
bring
them.
that up at,
I mean, it'd
as
be
a
worthwhile,
recommendation at a committee
or at least,
meeting.
or at least the minutes have got to reflect everything that's going on, not just the highlights. And I know
I
it's
agree
going to
with
be
you. I
a
think that
problem.
taping of the meetings is going to be very important.
Yeah.
And also having somebody there taking minutes so that everybody on the committee can fully participate. Yes, that has to happen.
We'll have to see if we can approach them and see what their feelings are on it.
And Tom, back to your question about what money is being asked for. I got the understanding at that meeting tonight that we will also be asking for some planning money to help with the costs involved with these first steps. That will be part of the requests that will be made. And hopefully we end up getting some planning money for this. One of the questions that's been brought up often, and it was talked about tonight, is the athletics and sharing or having separate teams and some teams, some activities combined. Again, Gary Cervechnik had a conversation with officials at the Minnesota High School League, and people have brought up the situation in Duluth when Duluth-Denfeld and Central were sharing a building during construction,
They shared Central, Denfeld moved.
and they wanted to keep separate.
Well, they wanted to have the same number of athletic events they typically had each year, but the Minnesota State High School League said, no, you're operating out of one building. You can have the total number of games, but it has to be split between the two schools. So they ended up having half of the games in a season that they typically would have had.
But that's one district.
It's-
This
but
It
it's
was
the
one
same
district, right,
district.
that was the point.
But Kyle Thurston has a phone call into another individual at the Minnesota State High School League to see what he can find out, but he hasn't had a response yet.
So there is activity on trying to find answers. And I think, Deb, you had mentioned that the transportation directors
I
have
do
gotten-
know that Bob Judnick, who's the transportation director in Virginia, and Mark Heitzman, and I don't know who the individual is in MIB, but they've met on 2 occasions now to kind of take a look at where we might overlap and what changes might be. The one good thing is we found out that we use a Versatran program to kind of track our transportation. Virginia also uses that Versatran program, but if you notice under the consent agenda, I asked you to approve Mark Skurians to come in as needed. Mark Heitzman doesn't understand how to pull reports from the Versatran program, so that's one of the reasons we wanted to have Mark Skurians available, was to come in to help us get some of that data out of that program. So they are working at looking at the transportation instead of going out and hiring a consultant to do that.
Yeah.
We're trying to use our own individuals to put together some of that information. But, you know, just looking at, you know, a small portion of the transportation, I took a look at what do we spend just transporting our kids over to Gilbert to use the Homec and industrial tech facilities there, and to the shared programs that we have with MIB in Virginia. And they have costs also for transporting their kids here into other districts. Just our district, just those transportation costs for vocational programs are $39,000 a year. if you had all those programs under one roof, there's 39,000 just from our district saved in vocational transportation costs. So I know there could be some savings, but we have to take a look at the entire picture and see what happens.
The other piece that I don't want us as a board to lose sight of is there were many questions at both of the open forums about open enrollment and some discussion that perhaps then when they enter 7th grade in this co-located facility that their resident district could receive their funds. And I think we had a communication, or there was some conversation between the Virginia superintendent and the Department of Ed, and the answer was no, you can't limit open enrollment. However, the answer is no, you can't co-locate, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. And I think it behooves our district to push to include in all these legislative changes a change to that open enrollment piece. That if you go to the co-located school, the money comes to your resident district. Because,
How does that work for sports then?
well, I guess
Like,
you
'cause
would
that was
be
just
with
a
your
question that
resident
popped into
district.
my
Yeah, I guess you'd be with your resident district. Or you have an agreement, you can still call yourself a student of somebody else, but your funds come to your resident district. Questions to be worked out?
And that might be a moot point when it's worked out how the 712 system will be funded.
Exactly.
It could be that all the funds for those students go to the joint powers. So it's moot on open enrollment.
I would question that, Mark,
I think.
because there's lots of funds that follow students that are used for things other than in a classroom, in a building. But just one of those things I don't want us to lose sight of.
But again, that's another thing that would take a statute change.
Exactly, but there's
And
many
somebody
things
would
in
have
this
to be
that
willing
take
to do that,
statute
to sponsor
changes.
that, yes.
Was there some mention too that if the legislature doesn't go with the co-location, they were talking consolidation? I think that was mentioned in there too.
Well, yeah, that could, they could come back and say, no,
No.
we don't want to do consolidate.
Then it's up to the two
Yeah, so we
or the
still-
3 districts
no,
if
we-
they want to go that route.
I don't know if that would, I mean, they don't at this point.
No,
Hard to know,
lot
it's
of-
not a plan.
Hard to know without the
Yeah,
plan.
Exactly.
Lots of that, exactly.
Yeah.
You had to come up with a plan back in the 80s for us, so.
I guess a lot of questions to be asked and a lot of answers to come up with, and
It is, it's,
yeah.
it's,
But at least we still have the option that we can withdraw.
oh, yes, at any time. But you have to know what the plan is before you just up and pull out. And if the issues are there that are not gonna be what we would like, I said we have to decide then.
And the other thing that's very likely to be part of the plan is going to be a vote of the public.
Oh, that it should be.
And that's, to me, is the final choice. Not our decision, it's the
And
public's
again,
decision.
Exactly. I mean,
That
that's,
takes us
And
changing.
when I
that's
first heard
what
about
we-
this, that they were trying to shove this through without even a vote, I thought, are you
That's-
guys crazy?
That's, that's what we should, I've said it before, that's what we should be looking toward, is putting forward the best plan we can, and let the public decide.
Without the public support, you might as well just,
We'll be looking at the vote from
no.
Gilbert and Ebba.
Yeah.
That's what we'll be focusing.
Our
Oh, yeah.
school district
Yeah,
Our district.
our district.
will be a separate
Not the
vote.
whole vote.
No,
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 each district would have to, for
Yeah.
consolidation, each district
has to pass.
has to pass it,
Pass it.
each existing district.
Okay.
and the collaboration
Mhm.
would have to pass each district. There will be a vote.
Yep, everything.
Choices are good for people to have.
Anything more?
No,
Besides all
I
the
can't
questions we
remember.
have.
There might be something else that I missed.
Well, the questions are gonna
This
be out
morning.
there until we finally start getting some answers, and I think that's gonna be a while yet before we get that.
And just a final thought, like we said, it's going to be important that we all try to make as many of these committee meetings, or committee of the whole meetings, or not, we would be there anyhow, but to make as many of these meetings as we can. as things progress.
Just as long as we know when the meetings are, just let us know. The rest of us who aren't there all the time.
And the public needs to know when these meetings are.
Yeah.
Also. So I mean, it's something that
Public
can be on
meetings.
our website.
Yeah. Okay. Anything other than all the questions we have?
Oh, let's bring up what, are there board topics now, or are we done for
No,
tonight?
not yet. We'll get to that. Hold that thought. Okay, superintendent report first.
The only thing I want to remind you of is that on February 18 at 3:30, remember at City Hall, Tom Rukavina is going to be there to discuss the current formula for taconite tax distribution. So if you're interested, you're invited to that.
And you're retired.
Huh?
And you're retired.
That does help.
Yep. Anything else, Debbie?
That's all.
Okay. Okay, Tom, we'll get on you.
Okay, one thing I did catch tonight at the Mountain Iron, another copy of their agenda, that they had their visitor input at the end of the meeting, and we have ours at the top of the meeting, where I looked at this where when the people are sitting there, we're discussing this thing, or topics, and if they do have any questions, would it be more advisable to have them at the end of the meeting? The visitor input instead of at the beginning of the meeting?
I don't know. Sometimes I
I
want
see-
to hear what they have to say though before I make a decision.
That's what I'm thinking. If they come here and they see an agenda and there's an item they want to address, I want to hear from them at the beginning of the meeting before I make my decision. If they speak afterwards, the board has already voted.
Okay, I just saw it where they had it at the end. And-
I like it at the beginning.
Yeah.
There's many different school districts have it different ways. Some have a beginning, some at the end, some don't have it at all. Which we at least offer, it's out there. I like to hear what's going on too in the beginning. I'm sure people don't like something, they'll let us know, no matter where it is.
No, I just, like I said, I thought I had there, when I looked at their agenda.
It has some merits, Tom. I kind of agree with you. Maybe we could do both. Have at the end of the meeting before we adjourn, ask for any comments, but also keep it at the top of the meeting.
Yeah, I don't have
Just
a
some-
problem with that.
Doesn't have to be either or.
Think about it. We can bring it up at the next meeting and change it if you want to. Right now, I don't care.
I just noticed one other thing too, we're down at 1072 on our enrollment right now, and we've gone from 1102 down to 1072. So that's not a good sign.
They're moving out of district, not even, they're leaving the area. Leaving the area.
So actually, they're not moving to another district.
They're not going to a neighboring district. I think out of the kids that left the last month, 2 transferred over to the area learning center. Otherwise, all of them moved out of the area.
Well, hopefully get this down.
Good for the area.
Yeah. Well, hopefully get this non-ferrous mining going, we create some other jobs up here, and it'll keep our students here.
Because
when
we
they
do
gr-
track
yeah.
where they go, what happens to them. We want to know if they're just open enrolling or...
Well, if we can keep our youth here after they graduate, then they're gonna get married, they're gonna have kids, and
If they can find
population's
daycare,
gonna come up.
they'll be able to find
If they can
daycare
find
before they
daycare,
have
because the study shows they're delaying having children if they can't find suitable daycare.
I was surprised at that how
huge
much that
number.
was. It was 27%?
I
So it was-
think
or 30?
between the phone respondents and the on-site respondents, it was near 30% or more.
Yeah, it was high. I was
Who are
surprised.
delaying having children.
Yeah, but they're
because of
delaying having
daycare.
it, but there was also, there's only like 5 or 6 points below that, they decided not to have any kids because there's no daycare. I mean, that to me was, blew me away.
Or thinking about moving out of St.
Yeah,
Louis County.
or out of the
because
county.
St. Louis County doesn't have adequate daycare.
Okay. Tom, anything else?
No, that's it.
Beth? Gary? Mark?
Nope.
Leon?
Nope.
Me neither. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.